Black Girl Magic, a declaration of pride among black girls and women that began as a viral campaign on Twitter, has played a central role in discussions about black female visibility, how we're seen and not seen. Over the past 2 years, the statement has served both as an affirmation and a root of contention. The expression is prevalent enough on social media that it's come to represent more than just a hashtag. The phrase has spawned lists. Nylon's 44 Women Weigh In on the Meaning of Black Girl Magic, BET's 10 Amandla Stenberg Black Girl Magic Moments, essays like Elle's Mystifying Piece, Here's My Problem with Black Girl Magic, which, as an aside, is actually a piece I agree with strongly, a literary magazine, and plenty of merchandise sold as part of the movement. When New York Times wrote about Essence Black Women in Hollywood event around this year's Oscars, where an unprecedented number of black women were nominated, Black Girl Magic was part of its headline. After interviewing Amandla Stenberg for Teen Vogue's February 2016 issue, Solange wrote, I sure as hell feel inspired by our honesty with each other and ready to take on the world. Sprinkling black girl magic in every crevice of the universe, end quote. The point of the statement is for black girls and women to deify ourselves and definitively claim the recognition and specialness we're often denied. But when it comes to using the expression for business, who gets to claim black girl magic? Now that is the end of the Jezebel article by Clover Hope. So now this is me talking again. Now, what's interesting is the article goes on and on about who legally should get the right to use and market and sell Black Girl Magic and Black Girl Magic merchandise. And it also goes through the history of the usage and appearance of Black Girl Magic and variations of Black Girl Magic in an effort to help figure out who is legally most likely to win all the various trademark lawsuits going on. But the one question it asks, it doesn't ask that it should ask is, instead of who gets to own Black Girl Magic, it should ask, should someone get to own Black Girl Magic? Like, should that be something that's trademarked and sold to begin with if it's a movement? What is that about? Like what is that? Why is it taken as a given that it should be immediately trademarked, monetized, sold, and entered into the mainstream as a commodifiable asset? And I think it just goes to show the extent to which black liberals really internalize a lot of things that the mainstream society, the mainstream white society believes, and they accept it very uncritically. I mean, it should be something for the people. I mean, I don't know. Were there similar things about Black Power back in the day? Was Stokely Carmichael, aka Kwame Ture, and other people competing over who gets to monetize the term Black Power or the term civil rights? Or we have a very strange mindset today among a lot of these black activists that a lot of people don't realize is very new. And it's very accepting of, like, it's kind of lost out the gate. It's already given up a lot of values from its starting point. It's already surrendered and succumbed to capitalism and the whole neoliberal, I gotta get mine, individual enrichment mindset. I mean, you can tell how ill-equipped it is to fight consumerism, neoliberalism, individuality, white supremacy, white values, just by the level to which it's uncritically accepted and regurgitated all those things from its inception. So, yeah, that was the most fascinating thing I found in this long article, is how it never even questions the premise about whether we should encourage someone to own and monetize what we're calling our activism. Which leads to part of the problem for me is I'm not some kind of fuddy-duddy that just hates every instance of black girl magic. Like if some little black girl who's getting bombarded with a lot of white Disney princesses who are magical and who's getting bombarded with images of white fairy godmothers and, you know, all these media images that kind of show her she doesn't matter, then I see why you'd want to give that little black girl a slogan to rally around and an image and a concept of black girls being magic. Like that's great. Or if it's just you're an adult woman, but it's you and your friends, you have a night in the town, y'all looking good, you know, looking great. Someone snaps a photograph and, you know, puts the hashtag black girl magic on it. I mean, that's harmless. That's fine. That's fun. Like, we shouldn't be humorless about this stuff or overly rigid or purity testing. But what I'm specifically talking about is this weird penchant. And I see it a lot, especially among like the wokerati, you know, like a lot of those people in the white ally media complex, you know, a lot of the blue check, BuzzFeed, Blavity, Black Twitter type of personalities, personas. A lot of them have this thing where they try to elevate black girl magic. And you saw an example of it in the excerpt that I said, as some kind of like tangible movement, a social justice movement, a worldview, an actual kind of revolutionary call to arms. And when you put all those extras on it, that's when it kind of bothers me, when you try to make it into something political, because it's just encouraging terribly superficial politics of optics, politics of superficial representation, politics of just courting white attention and white validation at all costs. I mean, calling a record number of black female millionaires being nominated for an award given out by white millionaires who are famous and calling that black girl magic. I mean, what kind of empowerment politics really is that for like the regular black girl on the street? You know, the regular middle class or blue collar black or impoverished black girl who, I mean, like, this whole idea of magic and just magical thinking in general is it's strangely childish and superficial and image based, and it's just a weird focus to me. And then something else I want to say on that is I feel like it taps into a lot of icky old school stereotypes of black people that were created under white supremacy and live today. Like this type of otherizing of black women, this view of them as like supernatural, as mysterious and otherworldly, superhuman. It's a long-standing trope, and I feel like it kind of becomes a woke version of that trope. And I'll give you an example. Today on Twitter, I saw a thread, and the thread started off, harmless enough. It was cute enough. It was a thread, and it had a bunch of black women, and most of them seemed older. They seemed to be in their 40s, maybe a few in their 30s, but they seemed older, and they were all dressed in matching t-shirts. They came from what seems to be a family reunion. So they had those family reunion t-shirts. And these black women were cheering on a white skater. This white skateboarder was trying to nail a trick. So they keep cheering him on, trying to nail the trick. And one of them, I believe, is recording the whole thing. So he tries a couple of times. And one of them even points to where he should try to jump from. Like she says, try it from here. This will work. He jumps, he nails it. Beautiful. And then everyone's happy. They cheer him on. He high fives them. And, you know, everyone goes about their day. But it's a nice human moment. And it's something that happens. Like, I've seen similar things happen with people trying to nail tricks, and then an audience starts to build. And, you know, people start cheering on, and then the person nails a trick and people get happy. You see that a lot, especially in New York. You go to Union Square, where all the skaters are, that used to happen. So I don't think it's something unique to Black women to do something like that. But, you know, I think it's a nice moment. I think it's beautiful. I think it shows a little bit of human connection that we don't see every day. And, you know, I think it's nice to see that just basic decency and humanity being rewarded and appreciated. So somebody put a thread of that video of the Black women helping the guy skate, and they added the caption, "They really gave this complete stranger the confidence he needed to complete a task, even pointed to the exact spot." So, okay, nice little appreciation of Black women. And then some people put like laughing faces, crying GIFs, you know, it was nice stuff. And then, of course, sooner or later, it comes. The Black women are magic GIFs and comments. And I'll read some examples to, you know, get it across. So someone puts, "More proof why Black women are truly amazing." And then a white person responds, "I was crying watching. Y'all are magic. LOL." And then a Black woman says, "We're all angels sent from heaven." And another person says, "I wish people encouraged Black women like this." And then a white lady chimes in, "Exactly." And then a white guy says, "Black women are better than we deserve." And then a Black woman adds, "Not true, everyone deserves it. We just also deserve it in turn." And then the white person adds, "I'm still misty-eyed about this. This is wisdom." And it just keeps going on, and it starts becoming kind of like almost like a Earth Mother cult. Like, you know, another guy adds, "Black women are magical," and then some Black woman with one of those Snapchat flower emoji filters adds, "We'll push you to do great things." And yeah, it's saying Black women are fucking magical. Someone adds, "Y'all need to appreciate Black women more. This is what people be sleeping on, love and support, and honestly is quite sad. Black women make me so proud." A white guy added, and I don't know if this is a joke, but he says, "I feel like there is a business opportunity here. People would pay to be followed around and encouraged all day, especially by that crew," which is a creepy as fuck comment. Like, he sees a business opportunity. People would pay to be followed around and encouraged all day by those, especially by Black women. What else? People don't understand. I've seen God in Black women. Black women for the win. Someone put, "Black women can literally help you do anything." That's in capitalized. "Black women are the magic this world does not appreciate enough." And yeah, I mean, it's. I'm not gonna go. It goes too. There's too many. I'm sure there's better ones, but I'll put the link in the show notes because you get the point. But it's very fetish. It's very fetishistic. Like, okay, I'll give you a few more. You can tell they are moms. Black moms are teachers. They point it out and tell you where to fix it. the black woman equals God's greatest creation and his closest reflection. And remember, these are white people as well as black people, like saying all this, you know? And it's like, if you really want to impress me with how great you think black women are, like, do something when there's no justice for Rekia Boyd or something, you know? Like show me like some real outraged and craziness that happens to the point that stops happening. And then I'll really, you know, understand how magical you think black women are. But I mean, otherwise, this is just a regular, nice human moment that, through some weird fetishistic stereotyping, they've turned into this weird Twitter circle jerk cult that's not even really appreciating black women as humans. You know, like, these people aren't talking about a human being. Like, what they're saying here, everything they're complimenting is on some next level fantasy that exists in their head. And it's what it looks like to me is the old magical Negro trope, but a woke version. And the magical Negro is like, it's that black character who just kind of exists to impart wisdom and inspiration on white characters. And you see it in things like Legend of Bagger Vance. Morgan Freeman's always playing one of these types of characters, and the person doesn't really have an inner world of their own or a life separate from the white protagonist. They're kind of just there to cheerlead, give advice, be encouraging, inspirational, help the white person on their spiritual journey to become a better person. And it's never through, say, they're never improving the white person through, say, intellect. Like, you know, a magical Negro is never sitting there and helping them solve a math problem, except maybe in Hidden Figures. But, you know, they're not really doing that. They're usually helping them, like, with some homespun wisdom. Like, it's something called primitivism. Primitivism is like the old noble savage trope, or Jean-Jacques Rousseau. It's an Enlightenment idea where primitivism is, okay, technology and being too damn smart and intellectual has divorced us from authenticity, from being real, from authentic self-expression. And the primitive people, by being primitive, by being not very intellectual, they've managed to stay in touch with their emotion. They've managed to stay close to nature. They've managed to stay close to basic goodness, because technology, intellect, it's corrupting and it's soul destroying. And these people, for lack of a better word, by staying so primitive, you know, primitive being a subjective value, but by being so primitive, which basically translates to comparatively dumb, the trade-off is that they've managed to have better souls, to have better self-expression, better hearts. You know, like, we build rockets, but they know how to be good mothers and how to forgive. You know, that's why Negro forgiveness is so big. That's why whenever a black person gets unfairly shot or something, the first thing that people like to ask from the families of the victims, or even the victims themselves, if they survive, is if they forgive. Because we're considered some magical, supernaturally wise, even though we're primitive, or actually because we're primitive, people, to the point that even our forgiveness carries a magical quality. People don't really rush to ask white people whether they forgive something. They never ask white people after 9/11, like, do you forgive bin Laden? They know the Boston Marathon bombers at the trial, nobody asked the victims, so do you forgive? And I don't think any of them, if they were asked, said they did. But it's something that's not only expected but desired from black people. That's part of the primitivism. That's part of the magic that we get from being less so-called evolved. And it's very, very old trope in white supremacy. It goes back from Africa being called the dark continent. It's considered, they didn't just mean literal as in dark skin color. They meant dark as in it has mysteries. It has forbidden things in it. It goes back to that Joseph Conrad story about the guy who goes native. The book that Apocalypse Now is based on. I'm always blanking on the name of the book, but you know, the guy that goes native. And I feel like a lot of this black girl magic thing is repackaging that in a woke form. It's not anything based on reality. You can just say those women were sweet, they were nice, that's chill, happy to see. It's a nice human moment, but their black womanness colors it and takes a moment that happens a lot with a lot of different races and suddenly just starts coloring it with all these weird racist tropes and stereotypes. And it's just interesting to me the extent to which a lot of black people kind of like to accept, internalize, and cultivate those stereotypes. It's part of that staged authenticity I described in an earlier episode. It's like a lot of these black people are, you know, because we have to admit, let's be honest, white validation, white attention in a system of white supremacy for a non-white person is very much like a drug. It's very addictive, and it's even narcotizing. Like, it can make you high. And a lot of black people, if they're honest with themselves, they can admit that that's a real thing if you're not careful about it. You can really get addicted to white validation. And because they know from the time of Africa being the dark, mysterious continent, the fascination with Haitian voodoo and zombies, the supernatural, wise, magical Negro woman, like all those things, being that they realize that white people are fascinated with that perceived aspect of black people, it becomes very tempting to play into it, to kind of show off to them. You know, like, even if what they're appreciating you for is a stereotype that might not even be true, but that they envy, it's still better than no white attention. So, and now people are even like monetizing it, because normally the magical Negro, he does it for nothing. He just does it just because he doesn't want anything. Just pleasing a white person is his own reward. But these people have realized, you know what, we can even charge for this. We can set up GoFundMes and Patreons, and, you know, we can really make something out of it. So when you go to something like the Safety Pin Box, so Safety Pin Box is the subscription service some black women activists created. They seem to be part of the White Ally Industrial Complex, and they created it to really get subscriptions from white allies for as much as $100 a month. And it even included homework. The whole thing was all about the services that black women, with their wisdom and magical ways, would be able to, all the services that they'd be able to provide you, the white ally, who was the target of this sales pitch. And it specifically kept it on black women. There was no mention of black men, you know, because the flip side of black girl magic is black man tragic. Because black girl magic doesn't work without black man tragic. And what I mean by that is this. One of the appeals that I notice a lot of these black girl magic online activists have is they love to also, to a degree, feed into a lot of the demonization of black men. And I've mentioned in previous episodes, I think it was episode 2, I talked about the whole BMAT trend online, which is black men are trash. And if you go on Twitter, if you Google black men trash, you'll see a million examples. And I described all the things that these black Twitter and Tumblr intersectional types will be saying about black men all day long, and all the things they'll accuse them for as far as actively oppressing black women. And that's part of what makes them magic to the white racist imagination. The fact that they can survive and thrive under the scourge that is black men. And I want you to wrap your head around this. If black men aren't problematic and aren't monsters, then black women become a lot less magic in the mind of many of the white benevolent racists that subscribe to this black girl magic idea. Take a look at something like Precious and how the black man, the black male is terrorizing her. And all the terrorism stems from the black man. Even the black woman who's terrorizing Precious, at the end of the day, is responding in a way to the abuse and neglect of the black man, the same black man who's molesting Precious. If you look at color purple, much of the black female magic comes from the black male demonization. If black women are magic superheroes, they need supervillains. And that's what black men end up consciously or unconsciously having to become. And if you notice, to a degree, they're almost more of an omnipresent and persistent supervillain in the narrative than even white supremacy. Or at the very least, they're almost sold as partners to white supremacy. Like, you know, that they are doing a supervillain team up. So you'll notice a lot of these same Tumblr/Twitter intersectional black feminist activists who love to constantly parrot this black girl magic trope, this supernatural, superhuman, otherworldly black magic woman trope. They also like to constantly mention the black male demonization trope. Oversexed, dangerous, bullying, etc. So it's really what's behind a lot of this social justice superhero or sorceress or social justice fairy godmother image that they're actively cultivating. And like, here's some more example of how it's in vogue to evoke the image of the headstrong, famous black woman, especially, as some kind of magical social justice messiah, right? There was this black female personality called Lovey. I think she counts as intersectional. I'm not 100% sure, but she's down with the Wokerati. I think she was part of Essence Woke 100 this year. And yes, there's a Woke 100. So Lovey tweeted, "Serena Williams' baby and Beyonce's twins might be the Harry, Hermione, and Ron we need to vanquish Tangerine Voldemort." And I guess Tangerine Voldemort is Donald Trump. Then she followed it up with, "Check out this comment on my Facebook. Their greatness shall begin to radiate at birth. If impeachment proceedings begin, Beyonce is in labor." Another black professor, this guy's like a PhD, he tweeted, "Janet Jackson has a child. Beyonce is having twins. Serena Williams is pregnant. Black women are already prepping a new generation of resistance." I mean, Serena Williams, first of all, these are all 1%ers. And Serena Williams is marrying the guy who founded Reddit, which is like home of the Donald Reddit. Like, white supremacists, Trump fans, I mean, he created their home away from home online. And just because she's a black woman, she's magically supposed to be prepping a new generation of resistance. It's a strange, fantasy exaggeration. Lena Dunham, she's always great. She tweeted, "Had a dream Trump was impeached and no one could figure out new president in the pandemonium. So I grabbed Solange Knowles and said, found her." And she added Solange Knowles. Like on Twitter, she tagged her in that so that, Solange Knowles would receive that. And then another celebrity Twitter account called Best Coast, which is a famous white music group. It's kind of like a hipster band. They responded to Lena Dunham's tweet to say, "Wait, I'm not even joking. I had the same dream last night. Impeachment happened, and I got the alert while I was at a Solange show." And I like to imagine Solange like getting these tweets, being tagged in them, and wondering like, why the fuck are these weird white girls tagging me on this shit? But the white liberal writer Clara Jeffrey, I think she works for Mother Jones, that liberal publication. She's done this a lot. Like she's posted like pictures of black women. She's added like even some sassy slang on it. I think she did that with Michelle Obama once. I could be wrong, but she spoke about a black female activist on Twitter. She mentioned this activist named Lashia Evans. Lashia Evans was photographed standing up to cops during a Baton Rouge protest. Now, Clara Jeffrey's talking about how she wanted to conjure up Evans to face down the cops at another protest that was currently going on at the time she was tweeting. And she discussed how Lashia Evans was some kind of supernatural superhero. And when a black guy on Twitter tried to correct her and point out how patronizing and dehumanizing her so-called compliment was, Jeffrey, she just couldn't get it. She just kept doubling down. So the Twitter user, he's a black man, he's a writer, he goes by The Shrillest on Twitter. He said, "You can't understand how it's gross to say that a black woman should be summoned to face down state violence." And Jeffrey really responded with, "I meant it in a superhero/magical way because she seems all powerful. Sorry for the offense." Like it's so ingrained in her, this otherizing, this troping, that she can't even see outside of it far enough to get why it's offensive. She just keeps reoffending, even in her attempt to apologize, because she's incapable. She's that incapable of empathizing with, relating to black people on a human level. She literally can't conceive of this black woman outside of as a trope, as an archetype. She even added another tweet with a photo of the same activist and the cops, where the cops are captured in mid-run as they come toward her to arrest her. And she's offering no resistance. She's just standing up with her hands up, and the cops are running at her. And they're in mid-air, in mid-run, and the photo is snapped. So it's a still photo. And Clara Jeffrey captions the pic, "Sorry folks misinterpreted," which they didn't misinterpret. "I think Lashia Evans is a hero. She froze those Baton Rouge cops in motion, despite them being armed to their toes. First off, no one misinterpreted her. They got mad because they interpreted her meaning correctly. She's incapable of getting that people actually understand her meaning and are still mad anyway, precisely because they understand her meaning. And each time she attempts to apologize and clarify what she meant, she just keeps reoffending, because it's not a misunderstanding that's leading to the offense. It's her true intent. They're mad precisely because they understand perfectly what she's saying. They understand that she's saying that this woman has superpowers, that this woman is supernatural. And she just keeps thinking they should take it as a compliment. But even dumber than the fact that she didn't get that it was offensive and why, even dumber is the fact that the activist didn't actually freeze the cops. It's a photograph. They're only stopped in midair because a photograph, that's what it does. It captures a still single instant in time. I mean, this soon as the photo was shot, those cops finished and completed their run, grabbed up Lashia Evans, and arrested her just like everyone else. There was no magic. She just got locked up just like any other black troublemaker. So it's crazy. It's crazy that she's so stuck in her fantasy trope that she momentarily forgets how a photograph works. That's deep to me. So all these threads, all these links, I'm going to put them in the show notes so people can see for myself. But there's this weird new form of black women will save us all feminism that's so creepy, with a lot of white ally types buying into it, and a lot of black women actively encouraging and reveling and even monetizing this positive stereotyping. But it's just a reclaiming. They're just reclaiming a negative stereotype as a positive one, but they're still perpetuating it. And to give another example, I was reading Audre Lorde because I was trying to learn more about intersectional feminism and read some of the primary source materials. And I had a lot of the same problem with Audre Lorde. And I admit, with Sister Outsider, I didn't finish the book. I only got 3 or 4 chapters in because this tendency kept repeating and I just couldn't power through to see if it stopped. I might try the book again, but she was engaging in a lot of that. Like in the book, she mentions a lot of how black women have this kind of moral and emotional compass that guides them in finding social justice because they stay a little truer to the cause. There was a lot of primitivism in there that I was talking about. It wasn't going into, specific, measurable, actionable political action theory. It was just a lot of Earth Mother type of imagery, like how black women are the best capable of countering or being at least a complement to the more intellectualized, in your head, white feminism that's very theory-based, intellectual-based, they're able to complement that or counter it by being the soul of the feminist movement, along with the white people's feminism, which is more a feminism of the brain. And kind of marketing, to me, I didn't finish the book, maybe I'm wrong, but to me, there was a lot of that undercurrent going on in the book about how you need, like, first of all, it was directed toward white people, not black people. It was for a white audience. And it was like, white people, white feminists, you need black women to be the soul to your feminism, the feminism of soul, to go along with your feminism of mind. And we offer a type of redemption. So that same magical Negro trope, that same Green Mile type of thing, this is like a woke Earth Mother version of that. And yeah, I was kind of disappointed by the Audre Lorde book because I was really hoping it was going to be something different, and that kind of let me down. And I've tried some other ones. I'm not going to name the names, but I found more of that same feminism of the heart and soul and sensuality stuff. Now, the thing with that Frantz Fanon, right? I was reading Frantz Fanon, who I've discussed in earlier episodes, and he was talking about a movement, a pro-black movement called Negritude, that he was highly influenced by, but he felt it had its limitations. And he spoke about this. This is nothing new. When Frantz Fanon was discussing Negritude, right, he had reservations about the pro-black Negritude movement because he felt it reinforced a lot of white stereotypes that rhythm, emotion, nature, magic, poetry, sexuality, blood, that these are black gifts worthy of celebration. Yeah, so they're taking the witch doctor trope and just making it into a positive. They're making it into a guru or a shaman, but they're both flip sides of that same otherizing trope. And Fanon was saying that you're internalizing, embracing, and being defined by a white-originated, stereotypical black image. And by doing so, looking at black people with white people's eyes. You've just redefined it as a positive. Similarly, if you try to rebel against this homespun, wise, magical, and natural black otherworldly image by trying to be the opposite, hyper-rational, scientific, intellectual, logical, super advanced, technological, the opposite of primitive, you're still being controlled by that white created stereotype. The only difference is now, instead of surrendering to it or adopting it or avoiding thinking about it, you've overcompensated against it in an effort to show you're the opposite. But you're still in a way subscribing to it, even if it's just to oppose it, or you're keeping it alive in your own way. Whether it's acceptance or active rejection, you're always defining blackness in response to an image of black people that was created by white people under a system of white supremacy. And the other aspect of rendering black women into superhuman or otherworldly or magical or drawing them as modern superheroes or having them cosplay as like Storm, and saying like, black girl magic, this is good politics because it's representation. Look, he's a black superhero created by white people. Yeah, like all that stuff, it reduces politics to something that's not going to help anyone. Like, this type of, by making it magic and calling it things like noir pixie dust, that's another variation of it I've seen. You treat social justice, you treat cosmic justice, you treat making people whole into something that's just visualizing it. Something's almost like a woke version of The Secret. Like, just, if you believe it, it will come. If you fake it till you make it, dress like this, talk like this, be visible on white platforms, get a seat at the table where we can be visibly seen, and that's advancement for black people and black women. I mean, that's not helping the black female masses, the average black person who's not upper middle class or in that world or rich or any of that stuff. It takes away from the work that makes real politics matter. For example, you see a lot of times, a lot of these new activists will be discussing old black women, people like Harriet Tubman, and they'll be calling her black girl magic. I mean, she's a woman, and that's not magic. That is guts. That is hard work. That is a grind. That is a calling, but that's not magic. I mean, she's not a superhero. She's not a Harry Potter character. The women of the civil rights movement, the women of the Black Power movement, they'll put them into the same narrative of black girl magic, and they'll put it with Beyonce's Lemonade. Like, they're part of the same linear history. That there's a continuity there, and it's not there. Like, it's just optics for Beyonce. Beyonce did Lemonade, and she dressed them all up into Black Power outfits, made them cosplay as Black Panthers, put up the fist, had them all with afros. But like, what was the real message of the song that was so Black Power? What were the articulable politics that somebody can use to motivate them to grassroots organize or to redistribute wealth or to make sure the people who most need help get the most help under a system of white supremacy. Like, there's nothing in the content of the song that's really about anything, to the point that she was able to just repackage the song for Hillary Clinton. She just took the song when Hillary Clinton was running and her and Jay-Z wanted to boost Hillary Clinton at an event. She took the same song, but this time she dressed up in a Hillary Clinton pantsuit and dressed all her formerly Black Panther dress backup dancers all had pantsuits. So then she did a white lady pantsuit version of Lemon. Is that whatever that song is? Is it called Lemonade? The one where she dressed like a Black Panther. I might have the name of the song wrong, but the whole Texas Bama thing, that song. But yeah, like that video, the fact that she can just swap out Hillary Clinton pantsuit visuals, a lady who called Black people super predators and who was cheerleading the whole growth of the prison industrial complex under her husband's crime bill, and who also, basically had slaves in Arkansas, according to her own book. I mean, the modern equivalent of them in prison labor. Like, if Black Girl Magic just means you can just switch from one image to another, not even change the lyrics of your song, and it doesn't matter because either way, you have a seat at the table and you're visual and you're getting optics, then that is not the same thing that the Black women in the Black Panther movement were doing, that Harriet Tubman was doing, that Fannie Lou Hamer was doing, that Ella Baker was doing. That's not the same thing. You've created something different, and it's not really for Black people. It's for white people and middle-class Black people. That's what it's for. And there's an article, right? There's an article called Black Like Mao by Robin D.G. Kelley. And it's a great article, and I think everyone should read it. It's very long and in-depth, but it talks about all the unknown, unsung, underappreciated Black thinkers and activists who paved the way for the Black Power movement. Like, a lot of people think the Black Panthers just evolved and came on the scene fully formed, but they were part of a long tradition of both activism and discourse, as in people used to write journal articles arguing with each other about Black identity, assimilation, and integration versus separation, Pan-Africanism. There was a very diverse and lively debate happening in the Black public intellectual sphere back in the day that we don't really kind of see now. Now we kind of have a monopoly on Black public intellectuals that consists of a lot of same-thinking Black liberal people who are all best described by that Adolph Reed article, What Are the Drums Saying, Booker? I'm not going to regurgitate what that article believes here because I've discussed it in the past, and it's way easier for you to just Google it. But yeah, like now it's a very big hive mind in Black media. If you're a Black public intellectual and you have a blue check by your name and white people know your name, chances are you say things like misogynoir, you celebrate bell hooks, you call people Ashy and Hotep if they disagree with you. You have and you don't really go against those things publicly. There's a very big sameness to it. And what I like about Black Like Mao, that article, is that it shows a very vibrant, free-thinking, combative, but accepted, difference of opinion. Like, people would disagree with each other all over the place, but, still allow you to say your piece and engage it. They wouldn't try to shut you down or just dismiss you as ashy, hotep, misogynist, whatever. And the reason I encourage people to read is because when it describes those Black female fighters, those Black female freedom fighters and social justice heroes from the early part of the 20th century and what they accomplished and the oppressive climate they accomplished all of it under, What's great about that article is it's mainly about their work, their struggles, their legal battles. It really goes into the actions, the grassroots organizing, the acts of violence, the insurrection, all the things that they did that were tangible action steps. And it goes into their political ideology. And they had very in-depth political ideologies. They were very diverse political ideologies. There's an ongoing evolution of ideas that culminated in the Black Power movement. Like by the time we get to the Black Panthers, that's the end of a long chain of events and discourse. It's not something that just sprung, fully formed. But I think our modern society tends to start it there and fixate there because it's the one that's it's the stage that's most easily digestible and capturable in optics. And what I mean by that is it's easy to just cosplay. It's easy to cosplay as a Black Power guy. You can just put on an afro, some black sunglasses, a black turtleneck, and then, it's why it's easy for Beyonce to just create a whole Black Panther aesthetic in her video and in the Super Bowl performance. Like these people, the ones who preceded the Black Power movement, the Black Panther movement, you couldn't really just easily digest them into a single cosplay costume. So I think it's another reason why these people don't really survive in the modern day, in the modern imagination. So this article, and it's better for you to read it yourself because it has endless examples, but it talks about all these Black women, and it doesn't talk about the optics. It doesn't talk about any recognition or validation that they got from notable white liberals. In fact, these people are largely unknown by white liberals today, I think, and probably most Black ones too, because they look to white liberals to tell them which Black people to look up to too often, unfortunately. And by being about that and not about their magic or their essence or anything nonsense like that, but, viewing them as humans, with resumes, aspirations, dreams, visions, fears, hard work, by humanizing them, it really shows what freedom fighting and political revolution consists of. And, it consists of vision, work, discipline, perseverance, resilience, like human traits, not super magical, not genetic or innate ones, but deeply held values and clearly delineated theories and actions for expressing those values. It does more than just otherize them into social justice, black magic, voodoo women that you can easily just dress up as if you put on a septum ring and a head wrap, or do some other form of stage authenticity. It doesn't work. It doesn't work that way when you read what these women did. And I'll just give you one example. One example is there's one person in this article, Vicki Garvin. In particular, when you read that Black Like Mao piece, just read about Vicki Garvin. And that is an incredible Black woman. And when you read what she did in her lifetime and the climate that she did it in, I mean, that's not magic. I mean, that is genius. That is brilliance. That is dedication. And that's, I think, a more sincere appreciation of her as a Black person and a woman than reducing her to being magic. And a lot of this automatic turning of Black women into everyone's nurturing earth mother and auntie, I think, comes from the mammy stereotype. It's very much a throwback to that. This current acceptable thing of reducing Black women to maternal magical Negroes it's not anything new. It comes from the slave mammy and goes all the way down to those modern Caribbean nannies with white kids you see all over the big city streets today. You know, it's this idea that black women can supply something maternal to the child inside every white person that the white woman can't provide. And that same dynamic that, you know, makes an uptight white yuppie couple feel appreciative about their effect that the Caribbean nanny is having on their white kid, you know, that's the same thing going on, I think, with a lot of this exotic black woman magic form of activism that we're seeing happening. And yeah, I think that's basically it. I was mostly going off the cuff today, so I apologize if the discussion meandered or was a little circular or repetitive. But yeah, I just wanted to get it off my chest. So anyway, oh wait, one more thing I wanted to add. Another strange aspect of this whole black woman, earth mother, magic, Negro who will save us all thing, and who will nurture us in a way that white women can't, is now, do you notice that they're doing this more even with white women? Like now when they want to paint a cold, patrician, rich, 1%er type white woman as more empathetic, as having more authentic self-expression, you know, for being more outspoken, you know, for being all those things that they like about stereotypical black women, right? When they want to give a white woman those traits, have you noticed that they've been lately, whenever they want to do that now, they describe the white woman as if she's a black woman? And what I mean by that is, I started noticing during the Hillary cycle, you know, people would just keep saying stuff like, there's that infamous headline, in Africa, they called her Sister Hillary. And then there'd be all these articles about, oh, Hillary just threw shade at Donald Trump, or Hillary just served up some looks, or Hillary threw shade at Bernie Sanders. And just slang and phrases and terms you would normally associate with a black woman, or they have her in the Breakfast Club and she's talking about her hot sauce, and they have her on Ellen, and for some reason she's doing black dances on Ellen. They have Roland Martin appearing with Hillary Clinton and teaching her to do black dances. She's doing black dances, and everything that they do to humanize her and to make her seem outspoken, whatever, is done in a way to package her as a black woman. And the most recent example, there was a Angela Merkel tweet. There was a tweet by Angela Merkel done by BuzzFeed. And this BuzzFeed caption, right, to this GIF, it was a GIF of Angela Merkel supposedly rolling her eyes toward Vladimir Putin. And in it, it says, what does it say? It says, please enjoy Angela Merkel, Chancellor of SAS, and they capitalize Chancellor of SAS, rolling her eyes at Vladimir Putin. And it's like, Chancellor of SAS? I mean, this is like a rich old white lady. Like what are you talking about? You know, Hillary doesn't throw shade. Angela Merkel, patrician white European Angela Merkel, is not a Chancellor of SAS. But people know that SAS is a word that is stereotypically associated and unconsciously or consciously evokes most of the time black women. And last example, I know it's going to end this, but I just keep thinking more examples. The whole anti-Maxine thing and how they keep having Maxine Waters on like liberals are just obsessed with Maxine Waters, but it's only because she's done something. They call her anti-Maxine, and it's always because she did something kind of sassy or outspoken. And I think it's the kind of thing where like white women look at it and like, wow, I wish I could be like that. You know, I wish I wasn't so civilized. I wish I could be tap into my primitive side like that. Like, you know, they'll literally call her like their spirit animal. They'll say, oh, Auntie-Maxine is my spirit animal. I've seen that. And they'll have the Auntie-Maxine shade throwing moment of the month or things like that. But no matter how many sound bites, no matter how many interviews or how many retweets of her, they're never going to go to her for an intellectual takedown of Donald Trump, for a policy, an in-depth policy takedown of Donald Trump. They'll probably get a white person to do that. But she's there to complement the harder stuff to the small extent that it exists in the liberal world with, you know, the emotional earth mother, auntie, everybody's mama stuff. Everyone's mom, the way to mammy, is everyone's mom at the plantation household, white and black.